Hi there, I'm Enigma, and today we're looking into one of the best and one of my most favourite casemates, So as you'd think, the Jagdpanzer IV was based on the Panzer IV, and you'd be correct in thinking that. But to be more specific, it was based on the best Panzer IV, the Panzer IV-H, a development from the Stug III, mainly the addition of the 7.5cm L70 cannon, the gun from the Panther. However, this project does not start with the Panzer IV, however, a more Stug-like basis. The development of this tank started with a very creative wooden mock-up, we'll call it creative, with the Stug III in a very large, very Hetzer sort of shaped upper superstructure. However, this was quickly found out that it was not feasible. Just like, look at it, look at this guy. If this thing ever got past the wooden mock-up phase, it would have some serious internal space problems, as the internal space inside the Stug III already was only about 7 to 10 meters cubed, and was already considered cramped with the smaller 75mm STUK 40-48 cannon. Just look at this. This is the inside of the fighting compartment of a Stug III. Here's a bigger image, the full screener. The available cruise space of this is only about 8 cubic meters, with about 1.5 to 2 cubic meters for each person. And you want to put a bigger gun in that? Huh? Now, I was recently called in by my good friend and buddy old pal Zwilada, God I hope I pronounced that right, never heard it said, to do a guest feature in one of his videos. Now that video isn't out yet, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be on the use of World War II tanks in the 6-Day War. So when that comes out, go check it out. Because there are some things I don't mention here that I do there. And also my views on the sexual prowess of the early Jagdpanzer prototype. He also delves into the Jagdpanzer IV's use in a post-war scenario, so make sure to go check that one out. But he has a story to share about the Panzer IV with us, like we're gathering around a campfire. Take it away.
Hello there, I'm Zwilada, and I'm here because Enigma asked me to tell you something about the Jagdpanzer IV. However, it seems like he has been quite thorough throughout this video, leaving me with very little to tell you. So I thought, let's take a look at the last time that a Jagdpanzer IV was actually used in combat. Now you might think that this would be somewhere around the end of the Second World War. But what if I tell you that this tank was actually used all the way up until 1967? So around the 1950s, the Syrian army bought 6 Jagdpanzer IVs from France. And the Syrian army actually attempted to use these antiques during the 6-Day War. Now very little is actually known about what happened with these tanks during the 6-Day War. We do know that all 6 of them were used at one point. We actually have a picture from that. Now from this picture you can see that it was dug in as a makeshift pillbox. However, even dug in, they didn't stand much of a chance against more modern Israeli tanks like the M50 Super Sherman. During this conflict, one of the 6 Jagdpanzer IVs were destroyed, and if you look really good on the picture, you can see that it was hit in the frontal armor, which was supposed to be the most protected part of this tank, showing that around this time the tank was heavily outdated. Now, you would think after this bad performance, the Syrian army would come to their senses and retire these tanks, but strangely enough, the 5 Jagdpanzers IV were actually kept by the Syrian army. But after the 6-Day War, they were never shown in public again. In 1991, it was noted that the 5 remaining Jagdpanzers IV were listed as assets in long-term storage by the Syrian army. And in the mid-1990s, there were some unsuccessful attempts to buy these tanks for display in museums. However, for now we don't know what happened to these 5 remaining Jagdpanzer IVs. Meaning that there is still a chance that there's 5 rare World War II tanks somewhere in Syria, but most likely they were scrapped at one point or destroyed during the Syrian Civil War. Now interestingly enough, the Jagdpanzer IV was not the only German World War II tank that was used by the Syrians. And I'm in the middle of making a video about exactly that subject, which will be released any day now, I promise you. Till then you should go check out this video that I made about the Hetzer and other funny German World War II tank destroyer. Anyway, thank you to Enigma for having me here, and I'm now gonna spontaneously combust.
Poor bastard went up like a stick of dynamite. But before we get into fixing the design flaw of the Stug III base, what's the difference between a Jagdpanzer or a hunting tank, as translated from German, and a Sturmgeschütz, meaning assault gun? A Sturmgeschütz is a tank. Shut up about the semantics of the definition of a tank. It's a tank. It's got tracks and a gun. A tank is a tank is a tank, designed to have a larger howitzer-style gun to conduct infantry support operation, making the Stugs effectively a glorified self-propelled infantry support gun, as the name implies. But they also had the secondary function of an anti-tank role. This secondary function slowly became its primary role as the tanks that the Wehrmacht were facing got more armoured and more protected. The increase in the armour that these tanks faced increased the need for a dedicated anti-tank role. However, this already existed as the Panzerjäger, a more lightly armoured and exposed vehicle, primarily designed around making older tanks or captured tanks and giving them a use in a supplemental role. My favourite Panzerjägers include the Renault FT with the Pupchen, basically a trailer-mounted Panzerjäger without the recoilless design, mounted in the turret, and also the Dicker Max, a 10.5cm field gun mounted on the Panzer IV hull, used as a bunker buster and anti-tank platform. A Jagdpanzer was effectively a hybrid between the Sturmgeschütz and the Panzerjäger, integrating the gun into a more complete design, mounting the gun inside the tank on a purpose-built platform instead of outside the tank, open to all the things that you would imagine would just fly in. Well, let's get back to the development of it. It was then later decided that they should mount it on the Panzer IV, which was a very good idea, as the much larger hull managed to accommodate the cannon much more reliably and in a lower profile. This low profile, akin to the Stug series, has the advantage of being able to hide behind smaller embankments or smaller bushes, and also just physically the lower profile makes it harder to spot on, say, a horizon. So, Aclit went and produced a scale model that they said could mount either the 7.5cm L70 cannon or the 10.5cm howitzer. This model was presented to Hitler, and since the paper trail goes cold there, I'd imagine he forgot about it or something. WWII produced their own copied homework idea, however, mounting a 7.5cm L70 cannon, we've heard this one before, based on the Panzer IV chassis. This is getting familiar. However, they change it by doing it on a Panzer IV. They made a wooden mock-up to show Hitler in May 1943, and Hitler didn't forget about this one this time, and ordered production of prototypes of the tank. WWII made several prototypes, and had their model selected to be the basis for the production line of the Jagdpanzer IV, with minor modifications, like the front plate and upper superstructure having mild changes in its design. The tank had its haters during its time, specifically Heinz Guderian, who wrongly thought that the Jagdpanzer IV was an imperfect replacement for, in his eyes, the Stug III. He thought it was adequate and they should instead use the resources from making a Jagdpanzer IV and make an actual just Panzer IV. His view of this I consider a bit short-sighted, as the Stug III had its fair share of issues and needed replacement, including the fact that the gun was becoming a bit long in the tooth, and you're not introducing a larger gun onto that platform. I would ask if you think he was right, but I'm not entertaining that wrong idea. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to go look at WWII's video when it comes out on the 6-Day War, and you'll see my slightly different cut at my award-seeking cameo that I made for him. I also hope you liked the video, because I experimented with a few new things on it. Also, the recoilless rifle video should be out next, unless something else crops up. The video is almost done. And also, I've put my source in the description. Make sure to have a read of that, because they go into a bit more depth than I do. Bye-bye!